escort my wife to the Academy Awards? I said, maybe. So we were at the Beverly Hills Hotel where they put her up, and we're sitting in the Polo Lounge, for lunch. And all of a sudden, an entourage arrives. It was the Chaplin entourage. And guess where they're seated? Next to me. Chaplin seated next to me. And I got to speak with them, and I told them, I have pictures of your studio, and I was talking about all this stuff. So at the awards itself, you saw the scene in the film. He's wheeled out there. He stands up by the podium, and they're showing the clips and all this. Well, the film ends there. But in real life, the film, the lights come up, and there's a standing ovation. I was in the front row, right with Yvonne. And you can see he was crying, I'm telling you, his emotions crying, because he felt that the people did not like his films anymore. He felt that he wasn't welcome. And of course, they welcomed him, and they laughing at his films. You saw he was crying when they were laughing. Well, that's really how it happened. I mean, he was isolated in Switzerland, not understanding what was going on, that people always liked his films. That it was this business with Hoover and kicking him out and all this stuff had nothing to do with it. Most of the people in the world loved Chaplin's films. So this was sort of I would say, a loose end that was taken care of in Chaplin's life. And he went back to Switzerland feeling quite rewarded, quite satisfied and fulfilled, that actually his whole life and career wasn't for naught. It was really worth it. You see what I mean? So, I mean, this was, the emotion of that night was amazing, I must say.
I was working at the Academy, actually, when he came there in 1972, so it was kind of wonderful to realize that I was a little teeny part of that whole thing. But what maybe isn't known by too many people is there was a standing ovation when he came out onto the stage. And he walked. He wasn't in a wheelchair. This isn't quite right. So he got up and walked there. And Daniel Teradash is the one that brought the Oscar and set it down. And then, let's see, I kind of forget. Jack Lemmon, I think, was the one who actually came and handed him his cane and derby hat. But something that happened there is there was only one. The camera, is very important. They have to decide, well, who are they going to focus on at different moments during the Academy Awards? And if you look at the acceptance speech, which is on YouTube, if you want to watch it, it's also on the Academy's website. So, they've authorized people to be able to look at that sequence. There's only one cutaway from Chaplin to anyone in the audience, and it's Jackie Coogan. And I don't know, but when I saw that, I just about collapsed, because I thought there was something special. Jackie Coogan was sort of the only person that Chaplin went out of himself to have as a co-star. He used Ben Turpin and many other comedians, but that one was a sentimental favorite, and he put as much light on Jackie Coogan as...
He stayed friends with Coogan
for
years.
For always, yeah.
Coogan was, considered him a mentor.
Yeah, so anyway, I thought you might like to know that because I think that there was one draft of this film where they actually have the sequence from the Academy acceptance speech. I swear I saw it that way once. But anyway, it's not done that way now in the release version.
Say one last thing, a couple more things. Over the years, I got to meet the Chaplin family. I mean, not all of them, but Sidney Chaplin, that's the son of Sidney. The son of Charlie, named Sidney. He had a restaurant in Palm Springs for years, and he was a terrific guy. I used to have dinner with him and talk with him a lot. And I got a call from these restaurateurs who were opening up a new restaurant on La Brea Avenue near Wilshire Boulevard. And they said, we heard that the building that we got is the Chaplin Studio. So I said, we all know the Chaplin Studio is on La Brea and Sunset. Yes, but it says it's Chaplin Studio. So I did some research. I called Sidney in Palm Springs. I said, what is this about this restaurant and whatever. He said, oh, that's my mother's. It's what is it? Campanile. Campanile. So it turns out that she built, with the money she got from the settlement, she built a strip mall. It's the early strip mall, meaning it's a U-shaped building, and you drive into the U when you park diagonally, and then there's stores on 2 floors. Like a cleaners or whatever. That was her building. So they built this restaurant with the atrium in the parking lot in the middle. So the name Lita Gray Chaplin is on the D's. So everyone says it's the Chaplin Studio. Okay? Then Jane Chaplin and Geraldine came to Hollywood because of Betty Chaplin, I told you about, that it was Chaplin's cousin. So they came out, and we went over to the studio. They hadn't never been there, which is quite interesting. So I had a big welcome for them, and we showed them around. And Chaplin had his footprints, that he put in the cement, leading from his office into the stage. There used to be about 60 footprints, but Red Skelton, who took over the studio, actually took all those out and donated them to different universities, including his own university. There's only 2 footprints there today that are still there by the stage. So we looked at all this, and then they said, we've never been to our father's house in Beverly Hills on Summit Drive, right down the street, literally from Pickfair. So we went over. We drove over. What the heck? So we went over there, and the gates were open. I can't believe it. They were always closed for years. I used to always take people there. So I said, the heck with it. I'm going up that driveway. I don't care if there's Dobermans waiting for me. I'm going up. I have Chaplin's kids. So we drive up the driveway, and to my amazement, the whole house is gutted. In other words, all the skin has been ripped off. They're doing something to it. I was horrified. Are they going to demolish Chaplin's house? So we got out. There was a contractor there. So I said, what's going on? He says, oh, don't worry. A Korean man bought it who loves Chaplin. So what we're doing is replacing all the piping, all the electrical and everything. We're going to put the skin back on, and you won't tell the difference. And that's how it is today. Chaplin's house is preserved. And I'm telling you, woo. But this is the emotion again. Jane and Geraldine are walking around the grounds where Chaplin used to walk. There's pictures of Chaplin with Paulette there and others, and they are like tearing, and they're all, they're getting this emotion. It was, what an experience. I'm privileged by chance to witness all of this. So when this film came up, you can imagine, I already had a reputation of having a great Chaplin collection, knowing him, and studying about Chaplin, and David Robinson bringing me in on his book. So it was, I don't know, it's almost like fate. All this happens leading to this film, which now you see was cut down from a TV series into this film. And you can see how they did it with flashbacks and the biography and this and that. But so much is left out, as you know. All of his other studios, all the other people that he knew, all those films that he made, and a lot about Bronco Billy, and here in SNA, of course, he couldn't put in the film. And just one last thing about the locations. There was a lot. There was Lone Pine in there. You might have seen when they were in the desert, and there's the mountains. That's Lone Pine, the Alabama Hills. A lot of the Nickelodeon and a lot of the other Salt Lake City, all that was at the Disney Studio back lot. And also they used Warner Brothers back lot as well. And then there was the Los Angeles Theater, and it's not City Lights, it was the Limelight when he came there, I just remembered. But City Lights did premiere there in 1931.
I just thought of something when I mentioned that I had taken Paul Jacobs out to meet Mr. Attenborough, and they were shooting the sequences I mentioned about the eating the beans, which was very funny. I thought that was terrific. Well, we had to be very quiet. And because, a lot of filmmakers won't let you on the set if you're not part of the crew. And so it was very generous of him to let us be there. But one thing I thought was very funny is a lot of filmmaking is dictated by the sound. And the sound engineer at the time that they were shooting that sequence said, "We can't start yet, sir." And he said, "Well, what is wrong? What's wrong?" He says, "I'm hearing there's a thumping that's going on." Well, this was an orchard area, citrus groves, as you can tell, all over the place. Well, the farmers were paid off. You can't work when we're shooting the film. I guess you know that too. So they were paying off the farmers for the use of their land, but also you got to be quiet. You can't be making any noises because we'll hear it. And it's a sound movie. They're shooting a silent film, but it has sound. And so the sound engineer said, no, I'm telling you, we can't shoot. We can't shoot. And he had on these earphones, and they had walkie-talkies there, I remember. And they said, find out what that thudding, what is that thumping? And so they said, well, tell him to stop. And it was a farmer who was working at his pump out in his, for water, for his plants. And so they said, well, tell him to stop. And I thought that was hilarious. And so they on the walkie-talkie said, well, tell him to stop. I know that when we were driving up, they had all the ways that you could approach that studio were blocked. Remember? They had guards at every exit and entrance. And so we were stopped, and only for a while it was kind of like, okay. And I thought, why do we have to be so quiet way out here? But I thought that was kind of a funny. As I watched the film, I thought, oh yeah, I can remember that thumping that was going on by the farmer who had to be told, no, we've paid you. Now you just stop working.